Namaste, everyone. Welcome to the Cārvāka podcast. This is your host, Kushalmehra. All right. The Union Minister Piyush Goyal has caused quite a stir recently. So let me give you guys a brief background about what today's topic for discussion is. The Union Minister Piyush Goyal, I mean, what is the word I should be using? He basically flayed Indian startups. Flayed. I think he just took them and just started punching them. I think that is the real thing. But I'm just going to read a few quotes that I garnered from the media. Are we happy about being delivery girls and boys? That was a question he asked. Food delivery apps are turning unemployed youth into cheap labor so rich can get their meals without moving out of the house. Kids of billionaires are making fancy ice cream cookies and calling it a startup. Chinese are making semiconductor chips and EV batteries. India has only 1,000 deep tech startups. दुकानदारी करना क्या ही करना है क्या? Change your perspective on Shark Tank. And then there is a famous slide that he had shown about China and India that has done rounds. Now, this has created a genuine stir on my Twitter timeline for a good, like usually Twitter outrage dies in 24 hours. This is not like two sides are very much opposed on this one. So I was like, I'll reach out to Mr. Pai. It's been a while since he's come on the podcast, and he's very kind. He never says no to me. So, Mr. Pai, welcome and thank you very much. You're on the pod for a long time.
Thank you. Good to be with you, Kushal.
So, Mr. Pai, let's start at this. I know you have your views, and you did quote tweet the honorable minister too. But do you think? My first question is: do you think his assessment is fair, unfair? Where do you land in this entire scenario?
First of all, his assessment is factually wrong. So I want to correct that. Okay. India has the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. 162,000 registered startups. Registered means they're registered on the DPIT portal. 22,000 funded. 119 unicorns, creating $600 billion of value. And we have them across multiple areas: health tech, fintech, deep tech, etc. And the unicorns have done reasonably well. They're valued at around $400 billion so far. And we get about $12 to $13 billion a year in capital. We got $42 billion about 3 years ago. And totally from 2014 to 2024, we got an investment of $160 billion, out of which maybe 75-80% is from overseas and not from India. That is what the system is today. Now, compare that with the United States, which has more than 780 unicorns, China, which has more than 400 unicorns. We are the third largest number of unicorns. China invested $845 billion from 2014 to 2024. America, $2.32 trillion. And China is a $19-20 trillion GDP country, which invests maybe $7-8 trillion a year. United States is a $32 trillion GDP country, which possibly invests about $3-4 trillion a year in capex. India is a $4 trillion GDP country, which invests about $1 to $1.2 trillion in capex every year. In fact, our capex is quite high. There are only 3 countries with more than $1 trillion investing in capex every year. The national income statistics show that. And all this bogus narrative about lack of investment is just bogus, because the data is coming out every year. People must read the data. That's the state of affairs. Now, you can't compare the United States, which is a $32 trillion GDP country, with the China, $20 trillion, and India, $4 trillion. It's an order of scale. Okay. Second, very important question to ask is: we have startups across a variety of industries, and the capital, and we are a capital short country. We got the least amount of capital. For the capital that we invested, what you achieved is unbelievable. Our payment system is the best in the world. 45% of global electronic payments happen in India real time, and that we are market leaders. It happened because of the India Stack. And you've seen some wonderful things happen on the platform, like the India Stack. We have Aadhaar, we have eKYC, we have DigiLocker, and the rest. And I think India as a platform country, which is deemed a public utility against being owned by any private company which could shut out innovation, is a very, very unique model. And I think we have been very, very successful. Now, China is investing heavily to be a dominant innovation power. If you read the World Development Report 2024, it says post-war, post-Second World War, there are only a few countries which have gotten over the middle income trap. Middle income trap has per capita income of $18,000-$19,000, I think. And that is Korea, Japan, and Chile. And these countries have gotten over it, primarily driven by innovation and technology. And he says India is the only country, or maybe among a small list of countries, which can get beyond the middle income trap in a few years, driven by innovation and technology. And at the base of all this, India has a very large software service industry. We export $235 billion of software this year. And I think we are getting in about $160, $170 billion of cash in dollars coming inside the country. We export totally about, I think, $450 or $470 billion of services. We have a surplus of $18-20 billion. We have a deficit of $270 billion in goods. And now we'll have a surplus of $240 billion in services, driven by software and driven by remittances, which are $125 billion. And that is what is saving this country today, because our trade deficit in goods is very, very large. In another couple of years or 3 years, the service surplus and the trade goods deficit could match. And that's the time when we don't require foreign capital coming in to meet our balance of payments requirements, right? And our currency could become more stable, much stronger. Because remember, even though we have grown 12% a year from 1991 till 2025 March in rupees, we have only grown 8.11% a year, from $275 billion in 91 to $3.9 trillion in March 2025. And the difference is the depreciation of the rupee. Even though we are growing 11-12% in nominal terms, because the rupee depreciates 3.54%, our growth in dollar terms looks very less. In PPP, we are a $17 trillion economy. China, I think, is about maybe 37. US is 32, and we are 17, the third largest in the world, right? So if Piyush Goyal says that the people are getting money in delivery, in all these things, and they're doing this, that's good. At least those people are doing something. You must understand, one, that these large internet companies are the ones who have driven innovation in the United States and China. Remember, AWS came out of Amazon, because Amazon has a huge amount of data, right? And they created hypercloud and cloud capacity around the world. And now companies like Facebook, companies like Twitter, and companies like NVIDIA are all coming out. I mean, NVIDIA is different. They're all social media companies, get enormous amount of data. They're the ones at the forefront of using AI, driven by a hardware company like NVIDIA, which has got fantastic chip design, right? And then we have Apple also being there. So I think all these internet companies are the one who are going to drive deep tech in a large way, because they need it for their business operations, and they're the ones who have been driving technology in a very large way in the United States, which is a market leader. Even in China is Alibaba, and it is Tencent, which have been doing this for a long period of time. Let's understand. So you cannot belittle their achievements. Now, as far as deep tech is concerned, we have more than 4,500, 5,000 deep techs, not 1,000 like the minister says. Data is available on Traxin. Traxin has got the largest database for one of the largest databases in the world for technology companies, and you must look at that. And we got very many deep tech companies. For example, my family is invested in about 35 funds from 2012 till today. And those funds are more than 500 startups, out of which 50 are deep tech startups. We know the difficulty, we know what happens. And these deep tech startups are long duration, because they have to really create great technology, test it out, and start selling. And they have to raise money. It's difficult to raise money. The pool of money available is very much less, because they've got high risk. The money is, there's a lot of time that it takes. And we got an internal market which is very, very small. India's total market is $285 billion as per NASSCOM. About $60 billion, $50-60 billion is the local market. The balance is the export market. And we get the largest amount of outsourced software in the world. 60% of global outsourcing comes here. And out of the top 10 software service companies, the market value globally, 5 are Indian. Of the top 5, 3 are Indian. Of the 3.2 million employees, the top 10, 2.3 million are Indians. So we've done extremely well there, and that's the base. Now, the criticism in a debate on a national TV yesterday by a person from Delhi who is a consultant for brands, he says that, where is India's Google? What are these jokers done? This is a disgrace. We don't have anything. And where is India's Microsoft? Where is India's Google? Where is India's Facebook? How can they not be there? These people don't understand the reality of the situation globally. First of all, we are a $4 trillion economy. America is 32 trillion. China is 19-20 trillion, right? And America spends about $2.5 trillion on technology. India spends maybe $60 billion, and China maybe a $1 trillion. And third, India invested $160 billion, China $845, and America $2.32 trillion in the last 10 years. So the scales are very different. There's no money coming into deep techs. It's difficult to get money. We're a smaller economy, and no country in the world has been able to create a Google, not China, not Europe. It's only America, because it's got a very large economy. The spending on technology is very high. The capital available is enormous amount of money. AI companies can raise $1 billion of capital if they're innovative. And remember this ChatGPT company, OpenAI, raised some $30 billion, right? At $300 billion valuation. Can you imagine something that's happening in India or in Europe? It cannot happen. Only America can create the companies. And to belittle what you achieved and to say, where are those companies? You don't have innovation, rubbish. There's a lot of innovation happening here. We are constrained by the lack of capital. We don't have enough capital. And where should capital come? United States succeeded because the huge spending on R&D is post-war. Even today, they're the largest spenders in R&D. We spend 0.45, 0.5% of GDP. America, I think 1.5%, 2%. But I think that amount is very, very huge. China is spending 3%. Korea, I think, is 4.5%. So their spending on R&D is very less. For example, I'll give you another piece of data. We give 9 lakh crore as subsidies to so-called poor. Center and state. Center gives 4 lakh crores. But we invest maybe in R&D and others, maybe 10, 15,000 crores, largely in the public sector. We hardly do anything. We're not investing adequately in the future. Whereas pouring money for helping poor people, which is required. But if we don't spend 10% of what we spend for the poor on R&D, what is the hope for us to come up and to be a globally respectable figure in technology? So what we achieved is certainly enormous. So money is not there from the public sector or the government for R&D. The second thing, our national research labs like CSIR, DRDO, don't work with the private sector, at least. CSIR has been a great failure. I don't see any great innovation from them. DRDO has done well, but they are like the typical Indian public sector state. India is a country where you take money from the taxpayer, pump it into public sector, and compete with the very taxpayer who gives you the tax resources without proper accountability. You pour money into DRDO, they've done good work, no doubt, but ROI in defense could have been higher if they cooperated with the private sector and given them technology, because the money is funded by the public and the benefit of the R&D should go to the public across the board to all citizens. The ISRO has done very well in the space sector. They opened up. We got a large number of space tech companies coming up. That's very good. Defense is doing something to a program. But apart from that, we don't have much. We suffer from a lack of capital. That's why I asked the minister, come to Bangalore, I'll show you a lot of deep tech, listen to them. And I told him, please tell us what is it that you have done to improve deep tech. Deep tech requires capital. They require nurturing. They require grants for R&D. If you don't do all that, you're not going to get deep techs which grow to a certain size. And certainly, they will be stunted in their growth.
So I have a couple of questions over here. Now, you raised 2 points about the research and development bit. Now, I remember looking up this figure of Indian companies and how much they spend in R&D as far as a percentage of revenue is concerned. And there was also a study, I forgot the name of the study, where it was on research and development culture in India. It was quite a detailed report. It was State of Industry R&D in India. I forgot the name of the publishers. And overall in India, we see a lack of effort. Forget what the government is investing. Now, even when large economic giants, and we have big companies in India, but even those big companies are not that much into research as being a major part of our overall percentage of the revenue that the company is generating. What do you think could be the reasons for that?
Well, you must remember, Kushal, that what you're seeing today is the result of the last 10, 15 years. Right? Before that, we didn't have much, right? People are fighting for survival. It's only the last 10, 15 years they've been able to make good money. They're able to come to a particular size, right? And they come to a size solving the problems of the day. What are the problems of the day? Problems of the day was to give decent, good products to people across India and to run a successful business and to earn return on their investment. They've been able to achieve that. Second, India has a lot of internal protection. You'll be very surprised. Last year, the total corporate tax collection was 11,32,000 crores. If you capitalize that at 25%, which is the tax rate, not the effective tax rate, could be lower, but that is a nominal tax rate, the total pre-tax profit of the corporate sector will be around 45 lakh crores. And now on the GDP of about 292, 295 lakh crores, that is about 15%. That is very, very high. It shows a lack of competition. So unless you open up the market and you push people to compete for the revenues of the customer, you're not going to get people investing in new products and in the new tech areas of technology because they're comfortable making money. Second, you need to have money coming in from the public sector also to kickstart R&D. All over the world, throughout human history, is public money that has created R&D and public money that has funded R&D, and that has been leveraged by the private sector to use the R&D and to put money into R&D to create new products and to compete. We have not had that. If you don't have the base of R&D, companies doing that is going to be very difficult. Look at the pharma sector. The pharma sector has been very, very successful in creating generic medicine by reverse engineering. Out of the patent regime they've gone on to the patent regime, and now they're going after the patented drugs expiry and coming out very fast. They're also putting money into blue sky research, which is going to take some time to develop new drugs. Some of them have come up, but many more have to come up. They have to spend, but the trend has started right now. The trend has to accelerate all across. And in most countries, defense R&D comes to the private sector, and that kickstarts new technologies, because once the blue sky research is done, then application of the technology is done by the private sector to create new products. Why is it we've not been able to create a jet engine in this country, right? We had a HAL before the Second World War, right? And then we went into the public sector, and government poured money when they never allowed the private sector to come. Why can't the government give money to companies like Ashok Leyland, like Tata Motors, and others to create jet engines? It is not rocket science. We don't have to have the latest generation of jet engines, but we could have created jet engines. Just now that Kaveri jet engine for the smaller aircraft, defense aircraft, has been, after 25, 30 years, has been passed the test after testing in Russia to get into that, right? You need the initial money. The money is not there. If the money is there, you can build on that. On top of, to do it from the beginning is going to be very difficult. It requires enormous amount of money, which these people don't have. And in areas of their expertise, they're done well. Look at the IT service industry. They're service industries. They're not product industries. Infosys has got a product, Finacle, now called something else. And that has now runs 1.5 billion transactions a day across 200 global banks. Has enormous core banking product. They poured in millions of dollars over the last 20 years to create that product, and now it's called Edgeware or something. So I think it's very important that there have been successes, but we don't have the kind of successes. I think in future we're going to have more and more money, but it has to be kickstarted by public funds. But fundamental research happens and that goes out into the private market. You can't do that. So there's been a failure of adequate investment by the country, and that failure is accentuated. But in the last few years, the need for better research has come. For example, you look at Bharat Forge. Bharat Forge on their own put in money to create the towed guns, right? And to create that vehicle, which can take on LEDs and others, right? They were able to do it. They suffered 12 years. 12 years. They went on pouring money. They did the investment. They're able to do it. Look at L&T, which created the light battle tank, 25-ton tank. They're able to do it in 3 years because the army worked with them. They poured in money, and they did that because they said, if we do that, we're going to get orders. Now, the technology from there will come into the private domain, and that will lead to better vehicles in future. The Tatas took over Jaguar, and Jaguar spends $2 to $3 billion a year on R&D. Now that R&D spending in the UK, which is part of the Tata companies, is coming to India, and the Tata cars have become very, very different and much better quality, much higher high tech than any other car that we have, than most of the cars that we have in the country, right? And I think it's happening in a big way, but we need more. And remember, we have only a $4 trillion economy. And the $4 trillion economy, the per capita income of $2,700. $4 trillion looks big. It is big. It may be the fifth largest in the world, but in per capita income is very, very small. So I think it's beginning to happen. We should not belittle them. We should think, how do we make R&D dollars increase in this country, and how do you make it work better for everybody? And it has to happen with public spending going up. That's how it's happened for all countries, and India cannot be different. Look at China. China put in $150 billion into AI in the last 5 years and created dominant companies. China put in $100 billion into EV for the last 10 years. China started a program in 2015 to say that they're going to put 5 or 6 industries and dominate that. In EVs, they're the dominant economic power globally. In AI, they come up to be among the top 2 dominant powers. In rare metals, they're the dominant power doing many things, right? In solar, they are the dominant power in solar panels and solar engineering and battery technology. In biotechnology, they're soon going to be the dominant power, the kind of spending that they've done. They took 10 years, they poured money, because that's what we got to do. There's a lack of money, not lack of people, not a lack of thing. And that money will drive private sector investment too.
So basically, until and unless the government enters the phase, in your opinion, this thing just cannot take off without that.
It cannot take off, because you see, when you have R&D in the universities, you create good PhDs. You create good research colleges. We need them, right? How many computer science PhDs we're creating in the country? 500. It's a joke. We are one of the largest digital powers. We create only 500 PhDs. Most of them will disappear to the US. And many of our people go to the US, get a PhD and stay there, right? We need to create an environment for them to stay here. That means we got to invest more in STEM, especially in master's programs and in PhD programs. And that can happen only if R&D comes to the universities, because universities have the place where you got to nurture R&D, IP creation and knowledge. And that's not happening, because Nehru hit upon the idea that we'll have this CSIR, other national labs, which are going to be cloisters of excellence, which will remain there in their high cloister without participating with the dirty public outside.
Yeah, but here's the catch-22 situation, right? And in India, a lot of the problems that stem in the life of an average Indian, in my opinion, basically stems from the fact that the government is part of their life.
Yes.
I mean, you've run a successful business. I've run a textile manufacturing unit, and I basically went cold turkey, because beyond a point, it is so hard to run a business in India. The compliances, the compliance cost, the bribes, the mental torture an entrepreneur has to go through is just not worth it. So then, what I'm trying to think is that if the government wants to pump in something, these are the same people that torture us when we run our business anyway. So how are we going to come out of this quagmire?
Look, we have spoken about the National Research Foundation. The government promised NEP they're going to give 50,000 crores over 5 years. They hardly given anything. Okay? And the starting point has to be that it's going to be the universities that have to look after research and create that human capital. It's not industry. You can't pass it on. And second, very importantly, the government announced a 10,000 crore AI fund nearly 2 years ago. What happened to that? Hardly anything. The center announced a frontier technology fund. How much have they invested? Hardly anything. The only successful intervention that they have has been the startup fund created in 2015, which really helped create the venture capital industry in India. See, we are a country of capital shortages. And the way for all this large investment has to be public investment. Why can't the government of India invest 20,000 crores into innovation and technology, frontier technologies every year, by investing, giving research grants to the private sector on a challenge basis, large amounts of grant, multi-year, including defense, and by investing in deep tech companies to create the kind of scale and technology that is required. And 20,000 crores, Kushal, is on 50 lakh crores spent by the government of India. You know, government of India spends 50 lakh crores. And this year, the states are going to spend 65 lakh crores, 115 lakh crores. 115 lakh crores on a GDP of 355 lakh crores. Come on, give me a break. And the kind of spending that happens. Why can't together states and centers spend 50,000 crores? Is there a rounding off error? It's not. It's a rounding off error. So you must have the vision. What Modi has done is he has made sure that most Indians have the basic necessities of life: a roof over the head, water in the tap, toilet in the switch, power in the toilet in the house, power in the switch, gas stove, food on the table, bank account, money in the bank, a mobile connection, an internet connection, education for the children, and health insurance, right? Most people get it now, and it is happening. Second, he made sure that he's putting money into infrastructure all around. 11 and a half crores is being spent by the government of India, and together states about 20 lakh crores is being spent every year on capex, which is very good. And we're seeing a sea change across India because of the capex. Our cities should get better, more money is required. But all across India, the roads, the ports, the airports, the railways, we are beginning to see the kind of efficiencies and reduction in cost that will come. The next thing they got to put, like China did many years ago, is to put money into technology and innovation. Yes, they have done many things like the India Stack and the digital platforms with RBI, which is very good, even though they made the banks pay for it. And they've done Aadhaar, they've done everything else. But they got to go pick up 5 or 6 areas of technology of the future and put money into R&D along with the private sector to create a new kind of genre of companies and deep tech startup which can make. So they got to do that, and it's time for them to do that. And the money is available. I don't think money is a shortage. The will and the understanding is something that they lack. And you can see it in what Minister Piyush Goyal spoke about.
Yeah, but post this commentary by the Union Minister, there's actually been a slew of responses. There was a long Reddit post that I'm sure, I think even you shared it. A lot of people have shared that long Reddit post.
I got about 3 lakh views on that.
Yeah, so it's been crazy that just the kind of stories that have come out about just the horrors that a person goes through.
Yes.
Now, another irony is, a lot of my friends who are from the tech industry or just from the startup industry or VCs or that kind of in the circle, they always tell me that if you're someone who's trying to start a company in India, they will go through every possible roadblock, but they still will not end up setting up a company because the government will make sure it cannot come up. The same people go to Singapore and they come in as a Singapore investment, and the government just rolls out the green carpet. Why does that happen? Why is this disparity? Is it something to do that the Indian babu's mind tells them that if an Indian is making money, A, they're a thief, and B, I need to extract a bribe?
It is that Nehruvian view that business is dirty, profits are dirty, they're not to be trusted, right? The still seem to be there because the senior bureaucrats are all grown up in an era 30, 35 years back when businessmen were crooks, making profit was dirty, being in government is the holy thing to do, and they're all great people, the elite of this country, ruling this country, and they look down upon everybody else. Take the RBI. The RBI thinks, Kushal, and I'm making a statement in public, that the only people saving this country are the people working in the building on Mint Street. They're saving the country from marauders who are outside and saving this country, protecting its precious foreign exchange. Even though FERA is gone, FEMA came in 1999, they have the control mindset, they have the FERA mindset, they want to control everybody. Now they're going after the venture capital industry to say that the kind of instruments they had, like partly paid up units, are not okay because they had a regulation on partly paid up shares. You can't you got to make it fully paid up out of some time. And we've been telling them these are not shares. These are all units which are a different genre, and that's how the industry works. You can't impose rules somewhere there because partly paid up shares are quite rare, right? No, not many people do partly paid up shares. Here, this is a general norm across the industry. They want to penalize them, penalize the entire industry. Oh, you didn't do. They don't care a damn. I've had many of my companies a few years ago leave India, re-domicile to the US because they wrote to the RBI and doesn't work. And funnily enough, you write to RBI, they don't reply to you. You keep reminders, they don't reply to you. They don't give you meetings because you got to know somebody. Then you hire the big four. They walk up and down the corridors and they get the meeting. And they're able to do it for you in 6 months. Why should you pay a middleman? I had called Dr. Raghuram Rajan to Bangalore when I went and complained to him when I was in the Kefral board. When he was there, he came to Bangalore. We had a meeting with the RBI. And I told him about this, and he asked the staff, why is it happening? One staff member said, sir, you know what? Anybody coming, we'll entertain them, but they come with the consultants. The consultants come to us, ask us, and we give them answers. They go back and charge a fat fee. Why should we give them advice and when they're using the advice to make money? How stupid is that? That's the attitude they have. The attitude that everybody outside is the crook. They're only ones saving this country. Income tax department thinks everybody's got black money. Everybody is the crook. They need more and more powers. The finance minister, Nirmala Sitharaman, has given more powers to the income tax authority during 7-8 years than any finance minister I know. I mean, I've been watching this for 30 years. I worked with many finance ministers. I remember meetings with Chidambaram and the finance minister. When they used to come and say they want more power, he used to bash them up because he knew the law. The finance minister, I don't know whether she reads the bill and everything else. And she's given more and more powers to them because they come and scare her. Oh, we're not able to get foreign money. Now you look at this. This year, gross direct tax collection is 25 lakh crores. If you take the last 4 years, it's close to 90 lakh crores. 90 lakh crores is the income tax and direct tax collected in this country. How much is the black money taxation collected? 20,000 crores, 30,000 crores. It is so small. With all the powers they have, what do they want? Now, they're amending section 240, 246, 247, 247 if I'm right, in the new income tax bill to give powers to the income tax authorities to break into your system, to override your system, take your password, go into social media and take everything, collect data because they want to go after black market thing. And you know what is the process? The process is when the officer has reason to believe that there's some tax evasion, he goes to an approving authority, and approving authority has a suspicion to believe or something like that has happened, he'll approve. It's all internal. Has any approving authority said no to any officer in the income tax department in India's history? I don't know. I don't think so. And then he says, 248 says that the reason recorded in writing for authorizing the REFA, giving the approval, shall not be disclosed before any person or any authority or any tribal in this country. What the hell is this? You're giving them powers, police powers, to go after you, use the systems. And today, Kushal, you know, because of the digital revolution, the creation of platforms, almost all our data is aggregated in one single platform or a few platforms to a level never seen before. Everything is available there. So we're all naked. So anybody can have a suspicion that you are evading tax. He can go to an approving authority who has, who has a reason to believe or reason to suspect is the word, and sign off. And then they go and raid. No checks and balances. And in that famous case of Supreme Court where they said privacy is the fundamental right, they said that for privacy is a fundamental right, you got to be careful and you can't do all this thing. And if you want to do all this thing, there has to be judicial oversight, a strong protection. Where is the protection in the bill? There is no protection in the bill. And in a parliament, those MPs will not even debate this. They're more into shutting down parliament for some silly communal matter or raising something just to show something, rather than debating all these serious issues which are assault on the freedom. Then you had this angel tax. Angel tax was introduced by Pranab Mukherjee, right? I think Pranab Mukherjee. It was introduced, you know why? It was introduced because YSR's son used to take money for his companies at high premium. They wanted to fix it. And they introduced that because the only power to say that when any money comes in, it's not kosher is there. And what happened? They went after all these startups, many of them, and said, who are your angels? Give me their PAN number, give me their income tax return, show me. If you don't show, they will add it to income as undisclosed, as unknown receipts or whatever it is. And many of them suffered. And then you go in appeal. We got a broken assessment system. And then we got a broken appeal system which takes 15, 20 years. You can't match both. As CFO of Infosys, I filed returns in 40 countries. We fought with the IRS and threatened them to take to court and we won. We fought with the UK tax authorities, we won. With Japan, we won. Australia, we won. But let me tell you, there's no system as perverse as India. It's a failed system and very perverse. The officer can convert a loss into a profit. In one case, the officer said, you are not exporters, even though we got dollars coming in, and said, I'm going to disregard your exemption from income tax because you're exporters and say it is local income. We told him, we got the dollars. No, I'm going to do it. Then one income officer told me, I'm going to disallow everything, make a demand because I got a target. You go fight in appeal, you win in appeal. And one income officer extorted 10,000 crores from SBI on the 15th of March to meet his numbers and gave the refund on the 15th of April. They went and told them, you pay the money, I'll give you a refund. This is the kind of thing, and they're beyond control. You study the budget this year in the receipts budget. There is 15 lakh crores of income, 14 or 15 lakh crores of income tax dispute amount in dispute. 15 lakh crores. There's 14 or 15 lakh crores again of tax disputes where the person is not available, the person has no assets. Perverse assessments. And I had a case in my own company where we won a case in the Supreme Court for stock options, say not taxable, but to give refund took 3 or 4 years. My colleague had to go to the Karnataka High Court to get an order of contempt of court to force them to give the refund. They don't listen to the Supreme Court. They don't care. I rang up the CBTDR and a member asked him, he said, Mohan, I can't do anything. I can't force them to do it. In your case, I will talk to them. What do you do with such things? Income tax thing that everybody outside is a crook. Now we got this GST. GST to get registration, try. They demand a bribe. MCA, you apply for a name, they'll reject it. Again, you apply, they'll reject it. Then a call will come to you from somebody saying, I'll get it done, give me some money. GST, same thing happens. The middleman is getting ready. IPEF, where shares go. My mother-in-law shares has gone there for various reasons. I'm stuck with that. For 1 year, they're not doing anything. They're not moving. They're not. What am I supposed to do? Then the consultants call me up and say, I'll get it done. Pay me some money. The middlemen have come into all these portals because none of the officers, I think, review that. They don't see how many have failed, what has happened. With the deputy governor of the Reserve Bank, way to look at all the letters that have come to the officers, when have they responded, what have they done, things will improve. They don't do it. If the finance minister is to monthly review what are the tax disputes, how much has come down, what has happened, have disputes gone up, dispute will reduce. Nobody bothers. They think everybody outside the country, outside them is a crook. Outside the government is a crook. They're the holy cow. And, outside RBI is a crook. And they think that they harass you. And they got unlimited powers. Has any of these officers been penalized for making wrong assessment, for getting all their assessments squashed by the courts? I don't know. I want to know. I want to know. They're the kind of attitude that these people have. They think they're the masters of this country and we're all their servants to grovel before them, live in dirty cities.
Yeah, but okay, what do you think? So Mr. Wembu said this on the same news. He said the government cannot invent a better operating system or a smarter robot. The government should not even fund such things because you have made different points. So I wanted to read this. It is not usually good at picking winners and losers. The government can at best conduct competitions where companies participate and then buy the best Indian products.
Kushal, Wembu took 30 years to create $1 billion company. 30 years, okay? 30 years. Now he thinks he's a Superman because he created the company, and all credit to him. He's done a great job. Okay? For him to say, government cannot create operating system. Yes, government cannot create operating system. Government cannot create a portal. Yes, cannot. Who created the India Stack? Is a group of volunteers in Bangalore, then government took it over. Right? He said government does not know how to choose the right, but government can create the conditions. What are the conditions? We are short of capital. We need a startup fund to invest along with other funds to expand the pool of capital. Today, the insurance companies have an AUM of 80 lakh crores this year. The pension funds have about 35, 40 lakh crores, 120 lakh crores, 110 lakh crores. How much have they invested in venture? How much is invested in startup? Zero. Please ask them, get the data. They're not investing because the IRDA has a rule that, none of this money should go overseas. It's too risky and all kind of stuff. Canadian pension funds comes here, takes the country risk, takes the currency risk and invest in startups and makes money. Foreigners can make money taking the country risk and this, but our insurance companies, where is the long-term money coming in? Wembu should understand that. Everybody is not going to spend 30 years like him. All right, he's a brilliant man. And honestly, I know the reason why he made the tweet. I don't want to make it in public. I know the reason why other people made the tweet. I know. I was also called and told, you got to say nice things. And I refuse to say that unless we see some action there. I want to tell you that because, the government call up people and say, oh, this controversy happened, please do this and all the thing. I don't blame Sridhar Wembu. And what he's saying is also correct, but you must understand that everybody is not a Sridhar Wembu, right? Everybody is not a Sridhar Wembu. You need support, you need capital because there's no institutional capital. Where does money come from venture in the US? It comes from endowments. Where are the endowments investing in India? Zero. It comes from insurance companies. Where are the insurance companies investing? Because the long-term play is zero. Where are the pension funds investing in this country? Zero. Then what do? Family funds are investing, but they're very small in number. It's only now people are selling and doing it. Corporate companies cannot invest because that's not their job. Many of them are doing corporate venture capital, etc., but it's too small. It has to be done by investment institutions who earn superior returns. And the top 25% of all this venture capital have earned superior return. The record is there. So I think you've got to improve the system, improve the flow of funds, and you've got to see results.
Now, another thing with this entire Trump thing that has come up and the tariffs and everything. Now, I'm just reading an article. This was Business Standard from yesterday, where 3 in 4 CEOs want India to negotiate with the US, as per this poll. What do you make of this entire US thing, and what impact is going to happen on our tech industry?
Kushal, let me tell you, Trump is a very smart guy. Trump is facing existential challenges for the US. Let me explain. US is $32 trillion of GDP, $36 trillion of debt, $1.2 billion of interest. 4-5 years ago, interest was $500 billion. Because remember, interest rates are very low at zero. Then you had some idiots who are called new monetary policy, who said interest rates at zero, don't tax, go on borrowing. Now it's hitting them because the market is pricing in risk. Correct? Now the interest cost may go to $1.5 trillion next year. And if Trump goes on as business as usual, he'll add $8 trillion to the debt by the time he steps down 4 years, because they're borrowing $2 trillion a year. Obviously, something has got to give. And today, the US has got a trade deficit of maybe about $600 billion, because there's a net after services surplus with a deficit of $350-400 billion with Europe, $450-500 billion with China, and maybe $200-250 billion with Canada and Mexico. Right? They got a trade deficit. So on goods, they got a deficit. Services, they got it. And the net will be $500-600 billion big hole. So Trump has got to solve the problem. So what is he doing? He's got doors to cut out expenditure. They say we're spending $7 trillion. We want to cut $6 trillion. May not happen. We have the many things. And they may recut maybe $400-500 billion, which is very good. Lay off 10% of federal workforce, 15%, because the grossly overstaffed. And you heard news reports, people are not even coming to work. Nobody knows what they're doing, right? And then he's doing that. Second, he's got to make sure that the trade deficit comes down, and it's not going to come down because the world is dumping goods on America. Because America is a very big market. They're buying all the goodies and giving green piece of paper in return, the US dollar, and that cannot sustain over a long period of time because the debt has become too high and the cost of the debt has become too high. So he's got a very good plan of saying, I'll charge you the same tariff you charge me, and that's fantastic. Why should he become the dumping ground for everybody? You charge me more for my goods and I'll charge you the same. So you reduce and I will reduce, which is very good. He may not be able to export because America may not be producing that, but at least he'll bring down the tariffs and make a much better system. Now, will countries agree to negotiate to reduce tariff? No, they will not. They say we got WTO, multinational, this and that. They will go on negotiating for 4 or 5 years and keep on dumping. And to shock them and to force them to do it, he said, I'll put tariffs on all of you and do it. So he's putting 10% tariff, which is going to remain, I think, on everything that comes to the US, barring some exemptions. And then he's putting tariffs on each country based on a very interesting formula, brilliant formula. Trade deficit, it is trade deficit divided by the total exports to the US, right? And he's saying you're squeezing me, and 50% of that I'll put. Very simple formula to understand. It means you buy more from me, reduce the deficit, the tariff goes down. It's very simple. He's forcing them to buy more. And I think that's the way he's doing. And today, despite all this furor, market coming down, the US and everything, 45, 50 countries have reached out to him to reduce the tariff in their country, bring to zero. Vietnam said we'll make it zero, but Vietnam is a partner of China in dumping. All the Chinese companies have gone across the border to Vietnam and they're dumping in the US, right? And I think that's very worrisome. And now we are seeing, India also wants to play ball. Is it India's interest to reduce the tariffs on most things to almost zero or match what the US done and open up the market so that we can go export more? Is it India's interest to buy more oil or promise to buy more US goods and reduce the thing because we can expand our market by going there and doing more business? Is it India's interest to make sure that we get more technology and become a partner at this point of time and give Trump easy wins? The EU will hold out, try to hold out, and this is a lost cause for them. China will try to hold out because the ego is high, but the Chinese are quietly devaluing the currency to make sure they don't lose too much of money. They can still continue to subsidize. And I think Trump, if he pulls it off, will be fantastic. He'll be solving a lot of the problems. And I think is a very well thought out move across multiple things. Remember, he has 6 months of honeymoon period to do all the changes, because after 2 years, there's going to be midterm elections and everything may change, right? So he's got 6 months. 6 months, he must show results. He's showing that. In all probability, on the 9th or the 8th, he'll announce that maybe all the countries who want to negotiate, I'm going to suspend it for them. Rest of you don't negotiate. I'm going to keep it. And maybe 40-50% of countries in the world will come and negotiate, and he'll get what he wants. So India has to use it to his advantage and do that. And even in agriculture, we are short of oil seeds. Why should we import oil seeds from Southeast Asia? We can import from America if they have oil seeds. And we can import pulses. I don't know whether America grows pulses. Canada
lentils.
Does.
3 to 4 states, Dakota and 3 other states.
You should import those lentils here. Because why should you import from Canada with all this Khalistanis, growing it and selling? Hit them where it hurts. And hit Malaysia where it hurts, because Malaysia plays games with us, right? Remember, for palm oil and all that. Import that and give them some almonds, gilmans and all which you have in short supply, so that it comes here. So we got to give him easy wins and make sure that we support. And some of them don't do it. It's fine. And for electric vehicles, let us reduce it to 10%. What does it matter? We need Tesla is a fantastic vehicle. If Tesla comes and sells here, and Tesla comes and works with Tata Motors, somebody to manufacture the cars, they're going to buy a lot of components from here. They'll upgrade their entire EV vehicle, and we'll be able to compete with BYD. We had to compete with BYD. BYD is killing everybody. They kill the Southeast Asian market. They kill the Japanese market. They kill the Middle East market. They're trying to kill the Europeans. Everybody is scared of BYD. India is the only country which can produce low-cost cars in numbers, electric vehicle. We need battery technology. We need what Tesla. Invite Tesla to come. Suzuki came and created a car industry, right? GE came and gave us a lot of work in software and healthcare software industry. Now Tesla coming will create an EV industry because they're late to the party. Let's do that. So we got to be smart enough to think how to get the US aside and grow like China did after WTO. China used WTO to dominate the US market and become rich. We must also go in the US, become a partner and become rich. Let's be smart and do it.
Yeah, I just don't understand the Trump way of doing things. I'm being
Trump has
honest.
got his style, Kushal. He's got his style. See, don't mistake style for action. He's got his own style. He's a maverick. He's got his own style. And that is his style. Look at his
He's too much
action.
of a maverick.
Yeah, too much of a maverick. And remember, no president has been hounded like he has in cases put against him. What the Democrats did against him is terrible, right? They don't do that. That is stance of a fascist country, a totalitarian fascist country where he used the law to go after people and bring them down. Remember the judgment in New York where they accused him of some fraud for documents where there was no victim. How can there be a fraud without a victim, right? And that judge said 320 billion, 400 million fine. Ridiculous, isn't it? What they're going after him. And all these prosecutors and all the Supreme Court judges in many states going after, giving it. How can you allow people who don't have any identity vote in an election where only citizens can vote? Now the judgment has come in one of the states. So I think there are many things wrong, and this DIA nonsense is going on too long. And I heard, Americans say that ultimate objective of DI is to make sure that mothers don't bring up the children. The moment you give birth, it should be taken over by the state and grown in state institutions. So it will be brought up without any bias, without anything. That's the only way to remake that. They're mad people. They're crazy. And he's stopping all that, which is good.
All right. One last bit before I let you go. And okay, I get, because I was pretty much on board with your side when it came to this entire Piyush Goyal speech. But don't you think there is some modicum of truth in it? Don't you think our company should look at some innovation?
Of course we should do it. I mean, nobody denies we should do it. We should invest more in deep tech. We should have more deep tech companies. It's not at the cost of something else. It's additionality. There's a natural evolution. Even in China, when they grew, first came Alibaba, Tencent, and delivery company, the cycle company, the scooter company, all that mass companies, remember? And then came AI and everything else because they put money to work. That's what we should do. Put money to work, man. Increase the pool of capital available for deep tech companies. Put in more capital. Give more grants for R&D. Pick up 5 areas of technology and invest like China. India will do well. That's it what it is. So I tweeted and said, Piyush should tell us what has he done to promote deep tech companies. They're suffering from lack of money. I got 50 deep tech companies in the portfolio. I know over the last 10 years, how they suffer to raise capital and how their growth has been stunted. They're very good companies, and 90% of capital raised come from overseas. It's a testimony to what they are. And they're very good deep tech companies. And they're very innovative. One of its time, we got a EV fast charging company which has created a 1 megawatt fast charging mechanism for a bus which can charge in 15 minutes. Remember when the BYD said 5 minutes, Indian company said we're doing it in 15 minutes for buses, right? Now, where do they sell the technology? 90% of all the buses are run by these SRTUs. They're all dinosaurs. Will they buy the technology? You'll get killed going to them for business. Where will you sell it? What will you do? Who are the ones going to buy? There should be a market. Market should be willing. The US market is open. The US market is willing. They'll imbibe technology. Here, a large part of the market is stuck with the public sector. Man, please understand, you tell us first, what are you doing to promote deep tech? What are you doing to help them? That's why I tweeted to him and said, Minister, come to Bangalore. I'll put a number of deep techs with you, see what they're doing. They're doing exciting work, and work with them to solve their problems and make them grow. Why piss on everybody?
Fair enough. I hear what you're coming. That's why I enjoy talking to you, because you stay firm to your point of view, and it's always fun. And you don't mind somebody countering you, which a lot of times people don't know that side of you. I mean, I've spoken to you so many times, so I know that. But my only thing is I expect a little more. I think a lot of what the minister said actually hit where it hurts the most, is because India is producing these kind of food delivery app or FMCG app related mechanisms, and I think you've hit the nail on the head. Things start coming once you reach like 7,000 to 10,000 average income as a society, where there is a market for all these kind of deep investment. I just think we are in a chicken and egg scenario where we're not even 3,000
Exactly.
USD and we're
What
struggling
did you
for
get?
these things.
One deep tax. You see, you are not funded the delivery companies. What have you get? You are not done. They raise money in the free market. It's up to them. Why abuse them? If a rich kid, rich father's son is spending money on innovation, let him do it. What does it matter? It's his money, it's his business. We are a free country. Why abuse them? Why say you're not innovative? Does everybody have to be innovative? Is DPIT innovative? Is the government innovative? Come on, give a break. As government, your job is to develop the country, create policies, help people become entrepreneurs, create jobs. Now you answer whether you have been able to do that. Obviously, you've not been able to do that. To get a GST registration, you have to pay a bribe. To get an MCA number, they go after you. Income tax goes after you for many things. Then they get into appeals. They get into the mess. Ease it out. I worked with Piyush Goyal for many years. We tried to remove that this thing. The finance minister was very hostile. I met the finance minister many times and said, remove it. Now, no reaction. No reaction. No reaction at all. And why was it removed? Because the Congress party put in the manifesto, they met and they got worried and removed it. Look at that. Why can't they remove it earlier? Kushal, I've gone to PMO before COVID and said this is bad. I tweeted, PMO called me, I met them, I told the problem. They told the finance minister, and Subhash Garg was there. They said, why didn't you change that? They amended the law. I was called again, saying the law okay. The law was the same. They used some other words. They try to create jadoo. They're doing something when they don't do. They're doing control. For example, they have a tax policy for the startups. You say we'll give you a tax exemption. Out of 22,000 startups, maybe 500,000 have got the exemption. People don't want to apply. It takes 1 or 2 years. We didn't ask for it. They only offered it. And they put such big restriction. It's no use to anybody. It's no use to anyone. People are not even applying. They think there's a big thing they're doing. We don't want a tax exemption. We don't want a tax exemption. GST, why can't we automatically get the number? Yes, there are some few crooks. There's some few crooks who are using it for fake bills. Go after them. In this country, maybe 1%, 0.1% are crooks. And they crooks obey no law. They do what they want. To fix them, the rest of us, 99% have to pay. The government should first trust us to say the great majority of people are law-abiding, honest people. Look at the income tax collection. In India, the income tax has gone up by 20% a year for the last 3 years because of technology, availability of data, everything else. They've done a great work in technology and everything else. 20% year on year. I'm telling you, it's gone to 6.7% of GDP from 5.2% in 3 years. Next year, it'll go to 7% of GDP, which is fantastic. Total tax collection by union government is going to 12%, 12.5% of GDP. Total taxes, state and center, is 18% of GDP. For a $2,700 per capita, this is fantastic. And remember, agriculture, which is 16% of GDP, doesn't pay tax. And it's fantastic, 18%. So, Kushal, you have to trust people. You have to go after people who are crooks. Now, you can't go after people who are crooks because you've got a lot of corruption in the government and many of them are bought over. And then they buy over, you go after the rest. And the judicial system is broken. To get something done take 15, 20 years. So, the moment you raise the dispute, people will laugh in your face and say, court ko jaane do, kya hai? 15 saal ho jayega. And in money matters, goes to 15 years. The time value of money is gone, right? And like that income tax, 15 lakh crores outstanding where no assets are available, no people are available. Everything goes, man. What have you achieved? See, we should ask the right question. And the data is there, Kushal. Nobody talks with data. Yesterday on the TV with Republic, one big brand person who calls it brand abused the startup India. Where is the India's Google? Where is India's Facebook? Where is this? Hey, man, we're a $4 trillion economy. Where is Google and Facebook and Nvidia in Europe? Where is it in Japan? Why does it happen only in the United States? Understand that. And then ask the question, what is it you have done individually to ask the question? All the people who have not done anything useful in their life abuse everybody else. In the service industry, we have created 6 million jobs. People call us cyber coolies, cheap labor. Is it cheap labor? Can you create a $235 billion service industry on cheap labor? Why should they come? The service industry does some of the most mission critical work for the top global corporation in the world. They're not foolish to hand over the entire business operations to you to manage and run, because these guys are very good. They produce high quality, they're certain, and they do it year after year after year. Give me a break. And they call cyber coolies, cheap labor. People don't come here for cheap labor. People come here because of quality human capital. They don't come here. I think the GCCs are all cheap labor. Give me a break. And all these stupid guys who have not done anything useful in their life say, oh, they're all cyber coolies. They're that. And what I tell them is, if you have built a great company out of India, you have some achievement, stand up and criticize. Otherwise, just shut up. It's useless, right? You know,
All right.
Aldous Huxley said, throughout history, small men have stood on the shoulder of giants and decried their achievements.
Last question from a viewer, and then we'll wrap up. Any books to read about the startup ecosystem in India, and what is it all? And also, can I contact Mr. Pai on email?
No, I think what you must do is just read analyst reports which are available on the web. Lots of analyst report on AI, startups, public reports available. Just read all the stuff and go to some events to learn. Don't worry about that. Okay.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Mr. Pai. It was a pleasure as always talking to you.
Thank you, Kushal. The good thing I like about you is we can have a honest conversation. You'll always debate. You'll not accept what people say. And you are a person of data and integrity who will always question. So it's fantastic to have a debate with people who are really interested in going to the heart of the problem, understanding issues, and finding out solutions, and placing all these facts before the listener and the viewer so they can decide for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pai. I'll talk to you next time. Please take care of yourselves.
Bye-bye.
Until then, take care. Bye.
Bye.
All right, guys, we'll wrap up today's discussion. This was a lot of fun. So, as you know, Mr. Goyal made his comments. I don't know which side of the aisle you are. I think every side had some points. I think the Honorable Minister was trying to nudge. It was like, go to the next level, go to the next level. But honestly, I think it was that comment by the Honorable Minister is in bad taste. And I'll tell you why it is more shocking is because it's coming from this minister who actually understands these things probably the most inside this current government. Mr. Goyal actually does understand these things, so it was kind of disappointing for me personally to hear these comments, because mark my words, this is from I went to Canada in 2001. I was back in end of 2002. Since 2002 till 2022, I continuously ran a business in India. I can tell you from personal experience, it's not easy. Running a business in India is not easy. It's torture. So, for a minister to mock wealth creators in that way, अरे क्या आइसक्रीम का ये या वो, I just think it could have been worded better. That's my personal view. I think there are better ways of nudging people, and I just think it was not on. It was not cool. I hope the minister understands that. These are well-intentioned people. Yes, Indians do tend to invest way less, even in the limited pie that we have. PIE, not PAI, Mr. Pai. This is PIE pie. Um, and maybe our companies can invest a little more in R&D. Like I had shared that image with you guys last time in my podcast too, and I always say this, that when I saw that investment number of Indian corporates, I was particularly, I would not say I was shocked. Honestly, I would not say I was shocked, but I was disappointed. Is like with that entire figure. I think we should do more. I'm talking about this figure. This is the R&D percentage of revenue. Look at Reliance Industries. My goodness, like 0.2%. When you have the biggest company of India investing so little, even Infosys is so disappointing. Mahindra and Mahindra, Tata Steel, Hindalco, the pharma companies are doing really well. Tata Motors is doing really well, I think. But there are some companies that are just not investing enough money eh, as far as research and development is concerned. And that should, cause a few flutters inside our ecosystem. And at the end of the day, look, everybody wants a prosperous India, whether it's Mr. Piyush Goyal, whether it's Mr. Mohandas Pai, whether it's me, and whether it's all of you who are, watching this live right now. We all want a good India. That's not the question here. The question is not whether we we doubt the bona fides of the government or not. But I just think it's not fair. But I'll just take your questions and I'll wrap up. How can we stop the decaying of rupees against the dollar? Rupee has gone from 40 in 2005 to 80 in 2025. You also have to calculate all the other extraneous factors. This is not a fair comparison. You have to look in other variables, inflationary trends and many other trends, also the size of the economy in America and India, also in the trade balances. So I think this is not, I just think we just need to become a bigger and bigger and bigger economy, and that's when you can correct these things. Government GST 35% plus RTI dilution with DP Act. Well, the government is special. Is the finance minister so powerful, and what makes such progressive steps ignored? Honestly, again, I can tell you with some certainty is because even I have interacted with the finance minister indirectly many times. It's the bureaucracy, man, that kills you. It's more than the minister, it's the bureaucrats inside the system. You have no idea how powerful Indian bureaucrats are. You guys honestly don't have any idea how powerful Indian bureaucrats are, and how much of your life can become a living hell with these bureaucrats. But and this is not me trying to give a free run to the finance minister. If the finance uh, minister deserves criticism, I have criticized the finance minister many times, but in this one she does not deserve it. It's just crazy. बनियाबाजी से ऊपर उठे हमारे इंडस्ट्रियल हाउसेस. इट्स नॉट एज सिंपल एज दैट. मैं कहता हूँ कि बनिया भी बन जाए, एक सर्टन सीमा तक है ना, एज है, बनिया बनना ठीक है, मगर आप जब अपने जीवन में एक 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 आर्थिक मुकाम पर पहुंच जाते हो ना, तो वहां पे फिर आपको आपको बदलना पड़ेगा. नहीं तो आपकी कंपनी तीसरे या चौथी पीढ़ी में खत्म हो जाएगी, आप अगर इनोवेट नहीं करोगे. वो पीयूष गोयल जी का रिमार्क याद रखना कि क्या अभी आइसक्रीम की ये कर रहे हो या वो कर रहे हो. बेसिकली वो क्या कह रहे थे, यार कुछ R&D वारंडी करो ना, तुम लोग ये क्या कर रहे हो, आइसक्रीम के ब्रांड बना रहे हो और ये सब कर रहे हो, तुम लोगों के पास तो रियल मनी है. उनका ये सोच थी, ये मेरा है. आई थिंक ही वाज ट्राइंग टू नज. आई जस्ट थिंक, आई स्टिल मेंटेन he should have worded it better. I think it was not nicely worded. That's my firm opinion. Anyways, guys, we'll wrap up today's discussion. So as always, thank you very much for tuning in. I know it is early podcast, but आज थोड़ा जल्दी कर लिया because time यही मिला Mr. Pai से. So as you guys know, this podcast only runs on membership donations that are monthly. So if you can, do consider joining the Cārvāka podcast membership program, whether on YouTube here on YouTube. You can also join on Patreon. The links to both options are available in the description of this podcast. You can also send one-time donations to in India and Canada both. You can use UPI in India. The UPI ID is kushalmehra at icici. In Canada, the Interac Canada email ID is kushalmehra81 at gmail.com. You can buy Cārvāka podcast merchandise on kushalmehra.com/shop, or you can place your orders directly on Kadak Merch too. You can also buy my book, Nastik, Why I Am Not an Atheist, on Amazon. It's available on Canada, America, सारे platforms पे हर जगह available है. If you can't do anything, just like this video, subscribe to the channel if you have not yet subscribed. Leave a comment in the comment section. If you're an audio listener, do consider leaving a rating on your favorite audio platform. As long as you guys keep supporting this podcast, it'll keep going on. Thank you very much for tuning in. Take care. Bye bye.